Ledgewood Slide, 2 April 2013. So there seems to be really three kind of primary units, I suppose. So I'm down here at the water's edge. Water's at about mean lower low water right now. And so there's this layer of sort of gravel, but underneath it, it's pretty muddy. Fine sand and mud. It's very soft in places. And then this sort of terrace is maybe 10 meters wide, 15 meters wide. And on this, there's these outcroppings of this dark mud. This is at about probably 2 meters above mean lower low water or so. So there's these outcroppings layered, thrust up at an angle to the beach, covered with these large gravels, which appear to be former beach sediment. And then there's this scarp that runs almost the whole length of the slide. It's about 2 meters high, it varies. And it's composed throughout most of it of this layer of sand. Pretty well sorted sand. There's underneath here is actually a layer of harder, maybe sandstone or mudstone of some kind. And then overtopping that, up on this second bench, is sand and gravel, thin layer of sand and gravel. And that appears to be the old beach sediment that was uplifted about 5 meters. This is the top of this is at about maybe 5 meters above current mean lower low water. And that varies in width, maybe 10 meters or so, 20 meters, I don't know. There's an old bulkhead, pretty well destroyed. And then above that, that sort of flattens out. There's a terrace on that layer, and then above that is where sort of what I'm thinking of as the terrestrial sediment starts, and that's mostly still vegetated with shrubs and trees, many of which have fallen down or are tilting. And that's composed of sort of a dry mixed sediment. And then up here, we're at about 6 meters above mean lower low water or so. Here's old driftwood. So stuff that was probably along the base of that bulkhead, large wood, probably some boulders associated with shore protection at some point. And so then this is the third kind of scarp layer that runs the length of the feature mix of sand and fine sediment, it feels like. So you can hear my footsteps on that gravel. That's upper beach. The very thin upper beach layer. And then here you can see that first scarp. Here it's not sand. Here it's composed more of a brownish mud, but you can see that there's the darker stuff exposed at the base of it. And then as we move north here, the sand starts up again. But here's those dark mud layers or sort of outcrops like this stuff. Again, we're back down around 2 meters mean lower low water or so. It's layer, there's stratigraphy here, but I don't see any, not finding any organic material, no obvious fossils, at least to my untrained eye. There's another outcrop right here. And then you can see that scarp again, that first scarp, the base of which is at maybe 3 to 4 meters mean lower low water. And we'll just walk around until we can get a view of the north side. Here's some boulders. There's a few of these that are interesting that have intertidal growth on them. And these are now at the upper end of the intertidal. So these are all, I mean, these are upper intertidal organisms, but these are probably at the very extreme end of the intertidal at this point. Here's a really nice exposure of that dark mud stone. Some obvious stratigraphy. There's another nice piece. So based on the direction of the layering in that dark mudstone, it appears that most of what's uphill from me is oriented downhill, whereas most of the stuff that is thrust up through this sand layer on the lower part of the beach has a different orientation, maybe a little bit uphill. So kind of interesting, very twisted too. So here is the north side of the slide.